In a public place, do you listen to juicy conversations you happen to hear nearby? Why or why not? If you're talking loudly, then I'm eavesdropping. I'm nosy. Certainly depends on the conversation. I had an experience this weekend on the subway where I overheard someone who gave their sir the ultimatum, "It's them or me." And the sir was clearly choosing to continue both relationships. You couldn't not hear that conversation in that car. I work in a store inside a shopping mall, where people randomly meet each other and start talking. Sometimes if there are no customers around, I focus on listening to all that bullshit they are talking about. Middle-aged people are most of the time just raging about anything. Politics. Other people. Gas prices. Older people are in a constant battle with each other who's got the worst problems with their bodies. My back hurts. Let me tell you that my back and my knee hurts. Plus I have diabetes. I don't really have a choice. Once I hear somebody talking, it's not in my hands. All I can do is focus on how much I can't stop listening. Yeah. If I can hear them. If it's done in public. It's fair game. Also, I'm aspiring to become a writer and it helps to get a bunch of random dialogue. I do this in GTA V but not in real life. Yes. Because I can't hold a conversation and wonder how people do it. Man, I wish I didn't relate to this. Yes. They were roommates. Oh my god. Absolutely. I also start really graphic conversations when I can tell someone is listening. At a bar that I frequent, it's not uncommon for people to decide to share a table without asking the people already sitting there. Those people are treated to candid discussions about aftercare for cesarean births. Or better yet, stories about how to prepare the placenta for fine dining. When I became a vegetarian at around 6, my aunt suggested I eat placentas because it's meat that nothing died for. I have no idea where she expected me to get them. Absolutely. I love to eavesdrop on people. I get to assume the most dramatic about everyone involved and there's no reason for me to recognize otherwise. I also like to people watch. Everyone is the lead in their own story. And I like to imagine what their story is. Their conversations just add to the intrigue. It's a little glimpse into an individual's unique perspective. I do at most times. My favorite was when a man walked out of a restaurant and says to himself, "The goddamn didn't eat her ducking french fries." I heard a lady in Central Park casually talking about how she stores cum in jars. Way more than I was bargaining for. Beats keeping it in a box though. I was studying for an important test at a coffee shop and trying to block out all distractions. A lady arrived at the table immediately behind me and, after exchanging greetings, she asked the man, a former classmate, how he had been. He replied bluntly, "Well, I was hit by a cement truck." That was it. I had to hear the story. I didn't get much studying done there and didn't go back as a result. But I passed the test. My wife and I do this to each other. If one of us can tell that someone is eavesdropping, it is their obligation to throw out a total conversational curveball and force the other to figure it out. It is amazingly fun and forces you to be on your toes during date night. We go to a nice restaurant and one of us notices someone listening in. They are now obligated to say something along the lines of drinking shots while pregnant isn't that bad for you. And see how far we can get the conversation and one-upping of ridiculousness without cracking up. We love making strangers uncomfortable. Super fun. She's the best. Edit, a word. Years ago, I spent tons of time in coffee shops or Panera. I always jokingly dreamed about starting a blog titled Conversations Overheard at Panera. I was always shocked at how loud people discussed private matters, finances, sex life, personal details, opinions on public matters. I would just sit there, trying to work, and get sucked into their worlds. It was fascinating. Not really. I just don't really care about other people and their problems. It just doesn't interest me at all. I also don't care about anyone else, but if I'm not otherwise distracted, I'll surely save any data coming in over the airwaves for my own entertainment and education. People's privacy is important to me, so I tune out their conversations and focus on my own thoughts instead. My hope is that others would do the same for me if they could overhear my conversations. PS. Enjoy your cake day. OP. If they are blabbing about it in a public place, they've waived that privacy themselves. Sometimes you can't help but listen, say, on a bus or some such. I don't have to hear them. Over the past few years, I have been learning ASL due to my deteriorating hearing. It comes with the side benefit of allowing me to eavesdrop on deaf communications in public spaces. A few weeks ago, I was in an Applebee's with friends. I happened to spot an ASL conversation from across the room and started to follow along. One of the people saw me and signed, "What are you doing?" I replied with, "You're so loud that I can hear you way over here." She laughed and I quit listening in. All the time. Usually when people think I'm reading, I'm actually listening because, well, why not? Ever been a cashier? You don't have to listen in. People just stroll up to you and start telling ya stuff. I find it really hard to not pick up conversations around me. Even if I try not listening, it gets overwhelming because I live in a city and work in an office and can't seem to find the off switch for listening to speech. Not juicy but random. Because I can. There's nothing wrong with being a roly-poly, said the lady. I'm still confused as to what she was talking about. I worked in an office where I was just outside the cubicle area. One lady was a mom of a couple kids and 3 of the younger ladies were all pregnant at the same time. I'm definitely not complaining and not being critical of them at all. But their discussions about all things pregnancy were quite frank, and not wanting to know more about my colleagues than I wanted to know. I became a master at tuning out other people's conversations. Yesterday at Target I was perusing women's clothing while my dad exchanged a phone charger and there was a lady talking on her phone on speaker. Of course I listened and at one point laughed at something and she gave me a dirty look, to which I replied, "That's why you don't talk on your phone on speaker in public." Saw her 15 minutes later as I was leaving. Still on the phone on speaker. I live in an apartment building with thin walls. My neighbor recently was fighting with her boyfriend. It's been several days with juicy yelling coming through the wall and I'm fascinated by it all, lol. This wasn't in public, but I am ashamed to admit that I listened in on a phone conversation once on my cell phone. This was probably sometime around 2003. Still had a Nokia flip phone. Anyways, the phone rang. I answered it. I heard this guy and girl talking. I repeated myself several times, saying hello, hello. No response. They kept talking. It's somehow my cell phone had grabbed the call of someone else and I could hear everything they were talking about. But they could not hear me. That being said, the conversation was pretty boring. Other than the stuff about the KGB. Just kidding. I listened for like 2 minutes. Got bored. Hung up. Well, when you start practically yelling your business in the middle of a craft store just because the nearby employee, me, only counts as a robot anyway. Hell yes. PS. I'm sorry your sister went to jail, but she sounds like a terrible person anyway. PPS. If you know Cassandra is a rick, maybe stop offering to watch her kids since it always causes problems. When I was 19 I worked in an office with a lot of older ladies. This was the early 90s and most of them were in their 30s, so I'd think of them as younger today. But whatever. They used to gossip all day. And it was juicy stuff. Someone was cheating on someone else. Someone is pregnant and lying about who the father is. This one woman's ex was stalking her and trying to kill her. It wasn't until later that one of these people they talked about faked their death and another got kidnapped that I realized they were talking about soap operas. No. Never in my life have I listened to anything that could have been interesting, so at one point I just stopped and fully entertained myself with more interesting things. like staring at a blank wall. Sometimes just because where I live the people, especially the women, are notorious for being loud talkers. Well, one day, I was waiting outside my university office center to take a test and there was a girl having a heated convo with her mom over the phone about her, most likely divorced, deadbeat father and what sounded like a divorce settlement. She was pissed that her mom was gonna lose her car, home, etc. But it seemed like she had no choice. Very sad situation to be in and I wish I could have been there to comfort her, but it was none of my business and she was clearly pissed. Best thing to do was leave it between them. I have heard the weirdest conversations while eavesdropping on trains. One man talked to his friend about how he didn't love his girlfriend and that he preferred her sister. I am a people watcher. My husband and I take cheap dates by going to the airport or mall and just watch people. We make up stories about their history and why they are there etc. It's fun. Even better when someone sits near us and starts talking on their phone. You only get to hear half the conversation, so it's fun to try to come up with a story about what is going on. Was on the beach yesterday and overheard two ladies just complaining about their lives. Completely ruined my time there. I mainly listen to music loud enough so I can't hear the screaming of annoying children. Not in the mood for a headache. I just want to get in and get what I need and then get out. No dawdling. Depends. If it's some dumb gossip sheet like hey Linda has a new boyfriend. It's like her third this month, I'll listen for some juicy drama, but if it's super serious and seems personal, I try not to listen. I love drama. I just love when there's beef between two friends knowing they will be friends again. Mayo. But in public with random strangers it freaks me out. Anyway. I like listening to other people's conversations because it sorts of becomes like a entertainment thing. I know I shouldn't, but it won't affect mine nor theirs lives. Heard a group of teenagers talking about the lowly hentai they have watched behind me. The only context I remember is one of them saying that the hentai is about a teacher and the school is just full of little girls. I hope people do. My best friend and I used to improv off each other outlandish but hopefully believable lies. In one I was acquitted of murder. In another, he had a wife who left him and ran off with a juggler. I'm a girl, he's a boy, if that matters. We counted on people overhearing us. I live in a very conservative area. I sometimes eat lunch with a friend who is very liberal like me. There have been two occasions where we knew someone was eavesdropping and getting mad about our conversations. We then went as far out as we could with our statements just to make them madder. Both times the people stomped off very upset. They never say anything to us though. Yes. I do. And that's why I know there's a dude who cheated on his girlfriend with his sister. And got her pregnant. God, I hope that baby is gonna be okay. Wouldn't say I go out of my way to listen. I don't care what random strangers are saying to each other. Plus, it's none of my business. If they talk loud enough for me to hear, well, I'm afraid that that's a different matter that is on them. I'm a little bit hard of hearing. So Lord even knows how loudly they are talking for me to hear. Then yeah, I'll listen, but it's kind of out of my control. So at that point, not gonna lie, oftentimes get mildly irritated that people are not being considerate, talking so loudly and disturbing other people's peace.